matter is so deep. But the first thing I want to do before we get into now, this is a visually accurate image. This particular presentation that we do right here, right now for you all. This is a good, and we use this word relatively, but this is a good and accurate word pictures within the, according to the science of word pictures, representation of the particular subject matter theme that we're speaking about. The Jesuits' subtle infiltration of Holy Land Ethiopia, because remember, we're in a spiritual warfare. And this is a very, very important subject matter. This subject matter is so deep, but the first thing I want to do before we get into this particular subject matter here, to give some of, and this is especially for the sisters, I really would hope that the sisters who see this and can, hopefully I'm able to articulate this so that you'll be able to pick up on this message and to share this with your sisters as well. And we're speaking about Kedistin Glomarium. Now, in speaking about Kedistin Glomarium, it is important for us, and perhaps we need to bring up the picture of the true and the oldest known image of Kedistin Glomarium. And one of the oldest known images that we have is known as the Black Mary. And many of y'all may have this poster. I think some of y'all may have. If you do have it, and you can find a way to either take a picture of it or to get a visual representation. The one that I'm talking about is the same picture, but the whole frame of the picture basically shows this is one of the oldest known pictures and representations of the Virgin Mary. An accurate picture when they talk about Saint Luke, Kedus Lucas, who many believe was a white Greek, but we're going to prove to you that Kedus Lucas, if anything, he was a Beta Israel, but one of those Judahites and descendant of the Judahites that was sold to the Grecians or the Grecians. And we find that in the book of Ewell or Joel. I think it's at chapter 3 in the book of Joel. So you can read that as a reference. But as the story goes, Kedus Lucas, or Luke, the apostle Luke, he had painted a picture, it was said to have painted an accurate picture, you understand, of Kedistin Glomarium, or the Holy Maiden Mariam. Now we're not saying virgin for a point, even though in a lot of translations it's virgins, but this is why knowing our language, according to Zephaniah chapter 3 verse 9 and 10, and understanding that aspect of this covenant, of this agreement, you understand that new language. See, that new language, and also in the new covenant, in the New Testament, it speaks about the ability to speak that new language, and at the Pentecost, you understand, or the harvest, at the Pentecost, the harvest in the upper room, they spoke in each other's language, and so the gift of language and linguistics is very important. We can trace that from so-called Old Covenant, you understand, on the Belui Kidan, is ka Hadis or Hadis Kidan. You know what I'm saying? So that's very important to understand. So while we're mentioning the apostle, Luke, because he was said to paint one of the oldest paintings of Kedistin Glomarium, of the Black Virgin Mary. But Mary is a very, very important symbol. And so it's important to understand that this image that you're seeing was the oldest, you understand, known image of Mary, the Black Virgin Mary, and it's from this image that different stylized versions of this Black Mary also have appeared and appear all over Europe. You understand, in some of the holy places, so that the Pope, or at least the last Pope, we don't know about this Pope, but probably if popes do what popes do, then he also venerates, you understand, a Black Virgin Mary, this Black Virgin Mary in secret, but publicly he puts this other image. Let's return to this other image. Now this particular image, what's so interesting and so strange is that this image has virtually infiltrated Ethiopia, almost like buho or buhe, like fermentation. This image, like fermentation, has so fermented Ethiopia. And this is interesting when you understand why we are to avoid that yeast, that so-called leaven, and why it's unleavened bread. You understand? And why the black image of this Dingal Mariam, or the black maiden Mariam, is different than the image of the white Virgo Mary. So the white Virgo Mary is this particular image, which we call Jesuit Mary. It's Jesuit Mary because this is the chief image, one of the chief images that was venerated, you understand, by the Jesuit Roman Catholic mercenaries and priestical orders. This particular image and other images which are like this image, but this particular image, the history of this particular image, who painted it, when they painted it, this is said, some say to be Lucretia. Lucretia, some say, was the sister or something in the Borgia family, Pope Alexander VI, and that's where we get the Italian Jesus, you understand, or the so-called God that wasn't there. You understand, we get the God that wasn't there is related. These are people in the Pope family, part of the Popish Roman, you understand, white, you understand, those white religious supremacists. See, that's the Roman Catholic Church now, is the white religious supremacists. And this particular image now has so infiltrated Ethiopia since the time of the Jesuits, and we can actually go through the documentation and even show you that there was a campaign to infiltrate the church and to put the leaven or sow weeds. This is a weed. You know what I'm saying? This image is a weed that has been sown among, you understand, among the wheat. You understand? The wheat now is the black maiden Mariam, or the black so-called Virgin Mary. You understand? And this is the image of the black Virgin Mary. Now, these two images, right? These two images here side by side kind of shows you this infiltration. And if you study art in Ethiopia, if you study native art in Ethiopia, and what has happened over generations by the infiltration of Roman Catholic art, subliminally, slyly, as gifts, you understand, and how it has perverted the Ethiopian psyche. This image has so adversely perverted the Ethiopian psyche. If we want to look at the careless Ethiopians and really get to the root of solving and resolving and charting our way out of the chaos that Ethiopian peoples and black peoples are in, we need to focus on this particular subject matter here. You understand? We talk about, well, what color Jesus is, or really Yehoshua is. Well, we know that the Jesus that never existed, that whitewashed Jesus, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus, is the God that wasn't there. This is what they made up, you understand, through these various ecumenical councils from the Constantine and the Roman Catholic perspective. You understand, before the Council of Nicaea, the true Christian and Christianity, you understand, was African and was Ethiopian, was Ethiopic, was an Ethiopic Christianity, or Ethiopic, or a black Christ. And this has been proven, you understand, in many different ways based on some of the oldest art and facts, the artifacts that have been found and those that have been preserved to some extent, or the witness that of viewing these arts that have been documented in by various writers and various eyewitnesses. So we have to touch on this subject matter, but behind this, but you said you have to recognize what is behind this, because we're just dealing now with the visual image. The visual image does a lot. There's a whole lot of witchcraft. You understand? There's witchcraft, or well, some can say it's bitchcraft, but there's witchcraft. There's a lot of witchcraft in this particular. You understand? All we're doing is pronouncing the W and witch as a German V. You understand? That's all we're doing. So we're saying witch. We're not trying to curse or nothing, cuss. You're saying witchcraft. There's witchcraft in this. This is like the dollar bill. Everybody's talking about the eye on the dollar bill. What we really need to do is figure this out. And an important key that provides us the access and the opportunity to figure this out and really understand what has gone on to black people, especially Ethiopians, how the fermentation of this leaven has really risen to its full proportion now when we see what's going on among Ethiopian society at home and abroad, is to turn to Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and her book, The ISIS Papers. We highly, highly recommend to you The ISIS Papers, The Key to the Colors. You need to study that book and understand what is global white supremacy. What is GWS? You understand? How does GWS really work?